3 days of darkness. You've probably already heard a lot about this. And that now not only are preparations for the cable-stayed crossing taking place, but there are also active predictions about what events will take place. And there is info about the 3 days of darkness. Evil beings have taken over us. We will face terrifying events as Earth flips, when huge tsunamis will sweep across the land, devastating the surface, and few will survive. So consider this topic today and see what is truly inevitable, what the main scenario of the quantum shift is now, approved by the higher forces of light and the Galactic Federation of Light. Today, we will connect to the higher civilizations and get answers to these questions. Let's examine this topic today to see what's inevitable and the quantum shift scenario approved by the higher forces and Galactic Federation. Today, we'll connect with higher civilizations for answers. I'll also explain how to prepare for the inevitable processes approaching us for your mind and higher consciousness. Today, we will connect live with the higher civilizations and get answers to these questions. And I will provide you with some explanations, both for your human mind and for your higher consciousness, your higher self, on how to prepare for the inevitable processes that are already approaching us. How do you hear me? Good or not good? I'm glad to welcome you today, dear friends. My name is Federi Yuri, in case you're new to me. My mission here on Earth is to prepare humanity for the new times that are now coming, and first and foremost, to teach you how to manage your reality, because your reality can truly be changed if you know the secrets that will be discussed today. I'm really glad to see you all today, and I think the topic we're touching on has been circulating on the internet for quite a while, and many people have asked me about it. Let's first ask ourselves, where did the information about these so-called 3 days of darkness come from? Because right now, this topic is being used just to create hype and to grab people's attention. Because it really touches many people out of fear. Oh my God. 3 days of darkness. What will happen? The sun will disappear from the sky. There will be no light anywhere. And in general, what will happen? I've encountered psychics many times in my life, on various occasions, and I've encountered contactees who, in my experiences, tried to make some predictions. And I had such an experience once. There's a famous contactee who participated in many channelings on one of the popular websites. I can mention this contactee's name because it's more of a pseudonym than a real name. This is the contactee Marta, who has been in contact with the Father Absolute. Once I got in touch with her, or at least I thought I was communicating with her. I got in touch with a certain woman who claimed to be a contactee with the Absolute, the contactee Marta. We talked for a long time. Then she started giving me some predictions. At one point she predicted fires, and then she predicted some floods. And indeed fires and floods happened. And then she says, that's it, I see that this autumn there will be a complete shutdown of everything. I say, what do you mean by everything? What do you mean by everything? Electricity will be cut off all over the planet. All the governments have conspired. They're preparing something serious. During this period, they will turn off the electricity everywhere, and people will be sitting for weeks. I see people sitting in the yards, there are bonfires, it's cold, they're burning something there. And they play guitars just to cheer themselves up, completely deprived of light, heat, and supplies. And it will be very hard, and we need to stock up on water and food. Dilemma, share on YouTube, verified, trusted intuition. And I had this dilemma to share or not. I rely on my inner source of information rather than on some mythical predictions. I then had the chance to encounter this topic directly because I began to check this information through my higher self, through my contacts, and through what I can, because I always, first of all, focus on my internal source of information and not on some mythical predictions. Regarding floods, here it is written, yes, well, somewhere there was a flood. Yes, indeed, somewhere all over the earth a fire will break out in any case. Somewhere all over the earth a flood will break out, rain will fall, and one can say, oh, I predicted a flood. But an event like a full-scale shutdown of electricity across the entire planet, especially with some malicious intentions, well, that's a phenomenon that can't just be brushed off as, oh, just a coincidence. And I started checking this information through my higher self, through my sources, through my contacts. And I came to the understanding and saw that, of course, none of that will happen. This is, of course, some kind of obsession. So, to help you understand, people who do channeling have a really tough time. I can say this from my own experience. A lot of information and energetic informational influences are coming from the general quantum field. We read and sense a huge layer of energy informational structures, including the fears and anxieties of people, but not only that. There are also higher forces related to destructive powers that wish to create what is called a predictive programming effect and program humanity to lower their vibrations through fear, through anxiety, instilling destructive predictions. Oh my gosh, the end of the world is coming, everything is going to explode, and so on. And through that, I observed and noticed the significant impact and effect on her behavior and actions. I didn't tell her right away. I refrained from immediately providing her with that specific feedback, but instead, I attempted to subtly introduce those thought-provoking questions. Of course, after several years have passed, you can see that none of this has come true. And besides that, there were also predictions. I also had the chance to meet another woman who claimed that she was the reincarnation of Jesus Christ. That was a whole separate topic. When I met one woman, she was like, "Who am I? So tell me, who am I?" And I'm trying to read who she is. And I look into her field, and she sends me a telepathic impulse. She was indeed a very strong telepath. She sends me an impulse, "I am Jesus Christ." And I say to her, "Jesus Christ?" So in the form of a question, she nods her head. So an adult woman, over 40, just completely ordinary, and she says that she is the incarnated Jesus Christ, the Messiah who has come to save the world. For me it was, well, to put it mildly, interesting. I didn't, of course, judge her in any way, but you never know. Anything can happen. I always study everything with curiosity, without prejudice. Of course, I talked to her. I was interested in what this would result in, how it would be reflected. Of course, I know that Jesus Christ, he did not disembodied. He is also in his incarnation in the body in which he was. Therefore, he does not need to be reborn. He will not have any rebirths. He will come from heaven and not be reborn on earth. I was well aware of this, but I was curious as to why a person would start to think of themselves as Jesus Christ. And actually, she also started telling me 2 years ago that in the spring, everything would change dramatically, that she sees it now, that everything will explode, there will be a pole shift, people will go crazy, it will be terrible, what's happening? I was crying. The higher forces were showing me. I felt so sorry for the people. I was crying. I looked at all of this and thought, so let me check for myself. I started to check, and again, I don't see anything, but I just see that this won't happen. This won't happen. The energy doesn't go in that direction. It's just some kind of fantasy. And of course, I immediately realized that this wouldn't happen, and it didn't happen. So everything she predicted for me. So I have a lot of experience working with forecasters and an understanding of why they receive such information and who is passing it on, who is playing with them. And so we come to the topic, the 3 days of darkness. Where did this topic even come from? The topic of the 3 days of darkness has been asked about me for a long time. Yuri, tell me, what will happen? Oh, will there be 3 days of darkness? Everyone talks about the 3 days of darkness. I personally first came across this information from the earliest source where it appeared, which I read in Drunvalo Melchizedek's The Secret of the Flower of Life. He has information that supposedly the Lemurians made their quantum transition a long, long time ago, and they had what are called 3 days of darkness, but this is based on the information that was passed to him on the contact. So, again, it's unreliable that we just took and checked this. It's based on his words that he was given such information, supposedly that the Lemurians had some 3 days of darkness during a quantum transition, when it seemed like there was no light or they were in some kind of blackout. It's really unclear what was happening at all. And people understand everything literally. They picked it up. I hear A. I say B. I look at the book. I see something different. Yeah. And they picked up this topic and started to hype it up. Especially the esoteric folks picked it up who had nothing else to talk about. They were looking for something else to fantasize about. And they decided to come up with the idea that, hey, let's take this topic and hype it up. 3 days of darkness, oh my, some kind of horror is about to come. But there were references to this in the Gospel, where it talked about the end of the world, when events from Revelation from the Apocalypse would take place, but it didn't directly mention the 3-day theme. It mentioned that there would be times when light would only burn in churches in the form of candles. But this can be interpreted in completely different ways, including as a power outage. There was also information that this came from Egypt, about the so-called 10 plagues of Egypt, and after the death of one of the goddesses, darkness reigned over Egypt, which was both day and night, and you go outside, and it's all dark. Again, we don't know what kind of event was possible at that time. It really did happen, but not in the context that we've imagined, but in the context of how the Egyptians themselves saw it. For example, it could have just been some kind of smog, like smoke, when a big volcano erupts. This can indeed lead to darkness that covers the entire planet. For example, it could have just been some kind of smog, like smoke, when a big volcano erupts. This can indeed lead to darkness that covers the entire planet. When a supervolcano erupts, I asked this question today to the Pleiadians on V-Contact, and it turns out, I say, that it's theoretically possible for complete darkness to come, where you can't see the sun either during the day or at night. Of course, we're not fools. We understand perfectly well that the sun can't just disappear from the sky. And we understand perfectly well that the earth can't just disappear from the sun. So something could block the sun from us. And I asked him the question, is it really possible for that to happen? The explosion of some supervolcano that would cover the entire planet with so-called aerosol. But then we would be talking not about days but about hundreds of years. Because the aerosol from such a powerful explosion could lead to a nuclear winter, which indeed happened and resulted in an ice age. So, our last ice age was triggered by ancient civilizations on Earth fighting each other, to the point where they kicked up so much radioactive dust into the atmosphere that it created a layer around the entire planet, which really plunged it into darkness. But it's not even about days, it's about hundreds of years. And for hundreds of years, the Earth was plunged into darkness just like that. And this darkness caused the Ice Age, which led to a massive extinction event across almost the entire Earth. In our time, many have talked about this and predicted it, and there are probabilities like the eruptions of large volcanoes when huge columns of ash block the sun, and it really seems dark both day and night. But when I started checking this information, again I asked the higher powers, the Pleiadians, whether something like this would happen, how it was all planned, and I was shown clearly and distinctly that such circumstances would not occur. There was a very high probability of the Yellowstone volcano erupting in 2012. So we really were right on the edge of that timeline where darkness could have truly descended, not necessarily over the entire Earth, but in the southern hemisphere. Oh no, I'm lying. In the northern hemisphere, right in the area where that latitude is located. But again, it wouldn't last forever. It would dissipate after some time. I started asking questions again. Well, what could this be? Well, all of this wasn't just made up out of thin air. Maybe it's some kind of antimatter that could just appear out of nowhere. Maybe the Earth will flip over and the sun will disappear. Well, who knows? Yes, maybe the Earth will turn its south pole towards the sun, and we at the North Pole will be in darkness for 3 days. Well, I mean, there should be some kind of justification or description for this. And the higher powers, the Pleiadians and my guides told me, dear friends, Earthlings and you, Yuri, dear, you don't need to bother your head with this nonsense. This reality is just empty information that people have inflated like an egregore, which drains energy from them. Someone here is asking, tell us about Gavak. This is the one. What is Gavak? This is the energy of fear and panic. So, when people are scared by negative predictions, know that this is being done by those beings who benefit from you being victims, who benefit from you being slaves, who want you to be afraid because they need servants, but not brothers. And such civilizations as a rule are reptilian civilizations. They are also trying to establish their order here on Earth. They have no control over the Earth, and they won't be able to take it. But they are trying in every way to impose these thoughts about this control on people. Well, you might say, Yuri, why did you start this broadcast to tell us that there won't be 3 days of darkness? In fact, any information has some kind of basis, and today I'm going to talk about it. The basis of the 3 days of darkness, actually, maybe some people don't know this, but the so-called 3 days of darkness are already happening. Hello, we have arrived? A year ago. In one of my channelings, I received information that people actually have a misunderstanding about what the 3 days of darkness really mean. Here, we need to change the interpretation of this information because there is some true kernel to it. The ice needs to be replaced with years. 3 years. And darkness is not something where, in the literal sense, there will be no light in the heavens. No, darkness refers to a metaphorical state of a person's soul. Attention, I'm not just going to talk about this. Listen to the broadcast until the end. It will be very interesting. I will talk about the main scenarios of the quantum transition and what will actually happen. Stay tuned. So we entered these 3 years of darkness during the period when the number reached 5 or 6 twos, meaning on February 22nd, 2022. And you know what started after that? This was a clear confirmation that we have entered this period. So darkness thickens just before dawn, right? So there's a build-up happening. And despite all this, light is coming. The light energy is coming in. It is penetrating deeper into the earth and lifting more and more. Everything negative is being pushed to the surface. So the 3 days of darkness are already happening. But these are 3 years of darkness. And these 3 years, if you think about it, during the times of various coronavirus restrictions, despite the fact that people were suppressed in every way, locked in their homes, scared, terrified, and people were feeling overwhelmed, constrained, and attacked by fears from all sides, this actually led to the opposite effect. People stopped being afraid, they became stronger. So, this was a period when, during COVID, there were, so to speak, uplifting stages, and they tried to dampen the vibrations of the earth using all this fear and panic from the global epidemic. But they didn't succeed. On the contrary, thanks to all these events and restrictions, many people and guides have awakened and managed to break free from the limitations. So now these years of darkness are happening, and they are coming to an end because it all started in 2022, and 2024 should be the last year, meaning we are now in the final stages. And in February 2025, a turning point will come. This turning point will lead to global solar events that we have not yet witnessed. And full preparation for the quantum transition will be initiated directly. I'll explain how this will happen. On the internet, you can also find information suggesting that the Earth will undergo a pole shift and that it will be tumbling in the air. Well, that's basically what has been said, right? And some people even panic about this. Oh my god, huge tsunamis will wipe out the entire planet. What should we do? What should we do? Where should we hide? Maybe we should head to the mountains. Maybe somewhere else? Maybe we should pack an emergency bag, stock up on canned goods. Let's figure out whether we should stock up on canned goods or not. And if we do stock up, then how much? Maybe we should stock up on cat food instead of canned goods. Yeah, maybe dog food. Or maybe human food. Let's think about it. We start this topic by understanding how this quantum shift will take place. The quantum transition begins with the process of our solar system moving in a spiral around its arm of the galaxy. Channeling on V-Contactor, I asked higher powers about Earth's renewal energies. Energies from the galaxy's center move along its arm via a subtle connection. This vacuum of space or ether transmits energy to stars like a pipe. When new impulses and energies are born from the center of the galaxy, they start moving along the arm of the galaxy because there is a subtle connection, like an artery, linking us to the center of the galaxy, an energetic artery. It consists of a material vacuum through which energy is transmitted to stars. Stars and planets connect to the core, the universal light source. This divine universal light flows from the core to the sun. So, our galaxy is essentially a unique organism, like a human being, where each cell is connected by vessels. Similarly, in the galaxy, each star and each planet is connected to the core, the source of the universal light's energy. And this universal light, as a kind of divine essence, flows from the core of the galaxy, through this spiral arm to the sun. But the Earth and the sun, they don't just rotate on their axes, they spiral around. And along this spiral, they also rotate around the center of the galaxy. And our galaxy itself is also rotating, so it turns out that according to the rotation period of our galaxy, the solar system is entering a sphere, space where all the characteristics of the environment are changing. This is what we call the quantum shift. So, we are entering a kind of photon energy field, where the characteristics of quantum physics and the speeds of energy interactions are different. And we are starting to feel this within ourselves. This inevitably causes changes in the solar space. And through the sun, this energy begins to flow to the Earth. The so-called periods, which are marked in ancient texts as Kali Yuga, Satya Yuga, and so on, dark times, light times, are influenced by cosmic energies that globally come to Earth. Of course, we, humans, are not slaves to cosmic energies, and they do not control us, but they do influence the collective consciousness. To understand this more deeply, let's look at how our Earth rotates and whether it will just flip over out of the blue. I would like to make a remark right away for those people who believe in a flat Earth. We are not going to argue about this topic with you right now or discuss it. And I will make a separate large documentary video for several hours with investigations, detailed, independent. In comparing the two models, the flat Earth model and the spherical Earth model, we will part ways with all the false myths and deceptions fed online about the shape of the Earth, and we will finally establish what its shape is. For now, I ask all of you to set aside these disputes and simply accept, for the moment, the model we are considering as an idea. Know, friends, that what matters is not what reality actually is, but which model of your perception of reality is the most practically correct and reflects real events. We are taking this model right now, at this moment. Know, friends, that what is important is not what reality actually is, but what model of your perception of reality is most practically correct and reflects real events. So, we are taking this model right now, at this moment. So, besides having northern and southern magnetic poles, we also have what's called the axis of rotation, around which the Earth spins. There is the equator and there is the plane of the ecliptic. I have some knowledge in the field of astrophysics and astronomy, so I can talk about this. The plane of the ecliptic is the area where the sun most often travels over the course of a year, but the plane of the ecliptic can shift as we change the tilt of the Earth while moving around the Sun. So the plane of our axis of rotation is tilted relative to the Sun. So every time we rotate around the Sun, we change our relative position to the Sun. That's why we observe the change of seasons. In one of my previous videos, I went into great detail answering questions about why the Sun rises in different places every day, why the Moon rises in different places each day, why sometimes the Moon is visible, and why sometimes it isn't. Why does the Sun move differently every year? It's all calculated mathematically, it's all explainable, there's nothing shocking about it. And I know many people who just didn't pay attention to this before, and then they go, oh, the Sun is supposed to rise exactly in the east, but it rises in the southeast, or it rises in the northeast. How is that possible? Oh my God, could it be that the Earth has gone off its orbit? No, there is a completely calm mathematical explanation for all of this. It has always been this way. Nothing happened out of the blue and nothing will happen. Because our planet can't just flip over like that. This is a global gyroscope. And the gyroscopic effect of our planet will continue to spin it in that direction for a very long time due to inertia. In this context, any information suggesting that the Earth is spinning the wrong way, or that some evil forces have twisted it in the opposite direction to harm us, is simply the fantasies of those who come up with such ideas. I don't know why they do that. Maybe it's just easier for them to live and believe that the universe is so evil and the world is so cruel that everyone has been captured and twisted in all sorts of unnecessary ways. When it comes to the rotation of the Earth, I can say that only the rotation of the core at the center of the Earth can change its speed, and can even stop periodically, and that's normal. During the period of pole reversal, we will observe that the core inside the Earth will be almost stopped by higher forces to accelerate the pole reversal. But we will talk about this, because pole reversal is a complex topic. To start, I want to say that the periods of Kali Yuga and Satya Yuga are also connected to the quantum transition with respect to the direction of the axis that runs through the Earth. This axis is currently pointed almost at the North Star. If you study the materials that are openly available online astronomically, you'll find that our axis of precession makes a complete circle every 26,000 years. And if we take, for example, 12,000 years ago, our northern axis were pointed towards the star Vega. And each time the Earth simply changes its direction, changes its rotation. It's similar to how spinning top rotates. Now I'm going to show you a picture. Here it is. Every 26,000 years, such a cycle occurs. And this is exactly how it happens. When the Earth reaches the North Star, the shift of the rotation axis occurs very slowly. It naturally happens similarly to how a gyroscope spins, just like in this video. Actually, it's not playing for me. So this video with the gyroscope didn't play for me, but just like this, the axis of rotation of our planet also shifts. And each time it looks in a different direction, and it's important which direction the Earth's rotation axis is pointing, because the axis is like its center, through which we draw in streams of energy. And now the axis is aligned along this arm of the galaxy that I showed you at the beginning. So we enter this arm of the galaxy like this and start drawing even more energy along this arm of the galaxy, even more energy. You can verify this by looking at astronomical maps. I'm not going to go through all of this right now, so I don't overload you with information. You don't have to believe me, just check everything for yourself. Everything can be verified, everything is confirmed. If you want, you can check everything for yourself and see that all my words are confirmed. And when we talk about this rotation axis, we understand that the Earth is similar to a gyroscope. If you know what a gyroscope is, when you spin it, the heavier it is, the more stable it holds its position. And you can't just take a spinning gyroscope and flip it over, because when you try to flip it, you'll create a certain amount of resistance I'm not going to give you a physics lesson right now. I had a video prepared for you with a gyroscope, but there was a technical issue with it. So I won't be able to show it to you. But the point is that our planet is a gigantic global gyroscope. It's impossible to stop it. To stop the Earth's rotation and restart it in the opposite direction, it would take an amount of energy equal to the energy of a collision between the Earth and the Moon. And even that might not be enough. So you would need to accelerate the Moon to a speed of 20,000 kilometers per second and collide it with the Earth in the opposite direction. And even that would just lead to its destruction, but not to stopping the rotation. Stopping the rotation of a planet, any planet in space, is practically impossible because of the law of conservation of momentum. And the law of conservation of momentum states that something has to stop against something else. If you spin a carousel, imagine a carousel, it will keep spinning for a long time. And how can you stop it? If you try to slow it down with your hands, or if there are bearings slowing it down or something like that. But if it were spinning in space where there's no resistance, no friction, it would spin forever, this carousel. The same goes for any energy or object in space. There's simply nothing for it to slow down against. It's just emptiness. So there can be no stopping the Earth in its rotation or turning it in the opposite direction without external influence. So you see that we're talking about pole reversal not in the context of flipping the planet itself, but in the context of changing something else, which I'll explain further. But you might ask, what about the effect that astronauts observe in space, the so-called Zhenya-Bekoff effect? I'll show it to you now. Some people, where did this idea come from that, oh my God, what if our Earth suddenly flips over? They watched this video. When in space, they unscrewed some nut, a screw, and this screw began to rotate and change its direction of rotation every time after a few turns. And people immediately started saying, oh my God, what if our Earth spins just like that? What if it starts tumbling too? So this is the so-called myth that the Earth will tumble, because the Earth is not a nut shaped like a T. A nut shaped like a T is a completely different object in terms of shape. And when someone spins it with their fingers, they give it an uneven impulse. And this impulse causes the axis to destabilize, and it has to stabilize in the opposite position. So it changes its direction because it's uneven, asymmetrical. And our planet is a sphere. It's symmetrical. It's even... Spheres don't twist like that because they're not shaped like the letter T. And all of this has already been proven and calculated by scientists. You can find these calculations online and familiarize yourself with them. Everything is very clearly described and modeled in computer simulations. Why, if so, all planets and celestial bodies would tumble. The Moon has never tumbled without cause. If this were the case in the universe, then in the universe all the planets, including the Sun, the Earth, and all the celestial bodies such as the Moon, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, they would all be tumbling. And during the entire period of human existence, we have seen at least once that both moons have turned over, for no apparent reason. But we don't see that happening, and it doesn't happen and will never happen. So, the pole shift is not something that some poorly educated people just thought up. They thought that everything would just suddenly flip over. The pole shift happens for different reasons, not like that, and we are already observing it. They thought that everything would just suddenly flip over. The pole shift happens for different reasons, not like that, and we are already observing it. And this is already in our days. 2 years ago, when I first talked about the pole shift, it was still hard to imagine, but now we see the northern lights in places where no one's ever seen them before. Why, it's the magnetic structure, not Earth's rotation axis, that's changing. The North Pole is moving. Every 26,000 years, coinciding with our precession axis rotation, Earth's magnetic poles shift. The core's magnetic processes rearrange, so the North Pole ends up south and the South Pole moves north. It has been demonstrated by scientists that, in fact, every 26,000 years, which coincides with the period of a complete rotation of our precession axis. There is a process on Earth where the magnetic poles shift. So the magnetic processes within the core are rearranging and changing the structure in such a way that the North Pole, which our compass currently points to, ends up in the south, while the South Pole moves to the north. So let me share a secret with you. The compass does not point to the actual location of the axis of rotation. The compass points to the magnetic pole, and the magnetic pole, if you look it up online, you'll find a map of the magnetic poles. It changes constantly every year. And now this northern magnetic pole is tearing apart. So at some point, a kind of instability begins, where it seems like the North Pole starts to blur and stops being in a specific local position. What is this northern pole and why are we talking about it? Let's figure it out. Our planet essentially is like a big magnet. It's like a torus. Let's also figure it out. Our planet essentially is like a big magnet. It's like a torus. And it also has an upper vortex, which is the lower one. Usually the northern lights or the aurora borealis can only be observed in places where, after an attack from the solar wind coming from the sun, there is a rupture of the magnetic line somewhere at the edge of the torsion field, somewhere around here. And after the rupture of the magnetic lines, the ion radiation goes to the poles, right here. And here it enters the space of the planet's sphere. And that's where the so-called northern lights occur. And now we see it in places where it has never been before. This is explained by the fact that the magnetic structure is starting to shift. It's already begun. It's not an instantaneous process, but it will take some time. Right now the pole is starting to wobble, so it's starting to move as much as possible. And all people feel this. This is exactly what they call the 3 years of darkness. This is the period when these fluctuations are happening. It's unclear whether it's going this way or that way, whether it's this way or that way, and the movement is unstable. That's why we observe that the northern lights are coming to the territory of Europe, Eurasia, right here, and over time it will manifest further and further south. In 2025 we are expecting even more huge powerful solar energies that will increasingly hit this pole, because every time there is a solar flare, what is the sun trying to do? The sun sends energy that should start the Earth like a key. In an ignition, you insert it like this, turn it like that. And for a while the engine runs not on fuel but on the battery, meaning from the outside. Sometimes, in cars that didn't have a battery before, there was a key that you would insert in the front like this, and you had to turn it. Cut, 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 or to start it with a push. Right now our planet is being started by the higher powers of light, the universe, with a push. So they're literally trying to insert this lever and turn it. Come on already. Let's raise the vibration of the Earth. And that's why we feel this turbulence. We're being tossed around, sometimes feeling bad, sometimes feeling good. And more of the accumulated negativity is coming up, because that's how it should be. It's all going according to plan. Because the process of quantum transition is a step-by-step process. It's not like many dreamers and esotericists who are actively making predictions and coming up with things right now. This will specifically and inevitably go through certain stages. The only thing that's missing, which many people want and what many are asking me for, is dates. Dates, tell us the dates, please. When exactly, when is it? No one knows this. And anyone who says they know is lying. That's it. And no one knows the exact date of when and how things will happen, because the quantum transition is like renovating a house. Imagine you've started a huge renovation and you go to the foreman and say, I know this from experience because I'm currently doing renovations. And he tells you, well, that's it. We'll get everything done. It'll take literally 3 months and that's it. The process starts, oh, it's raining, oh, there are workers, oh, it's a holiday, oh, something else, oh, the materials have gotten more expensive, pay more money, Oh, something else happened. We don't have enough for this, for that, pay more money. Oh, something's happening over there. That's why we're delayed. And so on. Oh, the workers got sick, we're delayed. And so on. So you see, in the process of any plan's implementation, various circumstances arise. And that's why even in construction plans, deadlines usually get pushed back. And in terms of global processes like the quantum transition, there can't be any specific timelines. There can be approximate forecasts. But even though I say that there can't be any deadlines, today I will say when the quantum transition might approximately happen. I will give reference dates, meaning the dates when there will be the highest peak probabilities of a shift. We'll talk about this now, just listen until this point. There are indeed such dates, but they are not 100% certain. They somewhat bring us closer to understanding how this will happen. Without this update, without the repolarization, the quantum transition will not fully occur. That is, now you know how to determine 100% accurately whether a quantum transition has occurred or not. Because I always say that the quantum transition is not a state that exists somewhere outside, it's your inner state. You need to make the quantum transition within yourself, just like your shift to a higher level of awareness. You can achieve this independently. Globally, it will happen when your compass points north to south and vice versa, signaling it has occurred for everyone on Earth. But globally, across the entire planet, this will happen when your compass starts pointing north to south and south to north. This is the exact sign that globally for all people on Earth, not just for you, it has taken place. Why is it impossible to fully achieve the quantum transition without this change? Because this torsion field is essentially the matrix's grid, and around this matrix grid, the so-called noosphere accumulated, which records information about the planet, and not only positive information. It reflects the egregores, the programs of people, conflicts, wars, everything is recorded there. And when esotericists on the internet say religious egregores have been destroyed, sure, right? I mean, come on, really? Look at them. The religions, the churches, nobody just suddenly stopped going to them out of the blue. And I hear this populism about how in some year the egregores were destroyed, or that they're going to be destroyed right now. Well, there they are, the religions, there are the churches. Nobody just suddenly stopped going to them out of the blue. And I hear this populism about how in some year egregores were destroyed, or that they're going to be destroyed right now. That's complete nonsense. Well, there's no need to say such ignorant nonsense. It immediately shows that you don't understand anything about esotericism and have no idea what an egregore is. An egregore is a structure created by the thoughts of people, and that means that as long as at least two people believe, for example, in the church and in religion, that church will continue to exist, and its egregore will exist, an egregore cannot be destroyed. Somewhere out there in the subtle realm, but it is impossible because it is unattainable for any influences of the etheric level, since energies exist as a set of quantum radiation of people's thoughts. And there's only one way to destroy an egregore, for everyone to forget about it. That's when everyone forgets about it, then it means the egregore has ceased to exist, or everyone starts believing in something else. In a new way, differently, then it changes. For example, if we took some ruler who created a cult of personality like Stalin or Lenin, they had a cult of personality, a very powerful, strong egregore, but over time it weakened and practically dried up. Right now, there's practically no egregore like Stalin or Lenin. It's just an informational egregore. In the past, these egregores were very strong, aggressive cults of personality that actively influenced people's lives, right? If you wrap fish in a newspaper that has Stalin printed on it, God forbid, that's it. Your neighbors will report you, and you'll end up in prison, sent to the gulag or something like that. It really happened. And it was precisely because of the egregore, but right now it won't be the case that out of nowhere they say, oh, all the egregores have been destroyed. That's nonsense. Egregores will only be destroyed when a repolarization occurs. Because it's impossible to completely destroy them, as they are wound around the spirals of this torsion structure. Only when the torsion structure is completely renewed will the destruction of the egregores occur. they will automatically fall apart. So people who, how will we all feel this? How will you feel this? Imagine that at some point in your life you realize these events happened, bam. I'm going to tell you what will happen, how you will see it. Just listen. Bam. Events have indeed occurred. You saw a truly significant quantum shift. The exact direction on the compass has remarkably changed, and you look and think, my God, how easy. I feel that it doesn't matter anymore, this, that, everything. So everything you gave importance to, like work, your illusions, misconceptions, like loans, banks, everything that shackles a person's life and deprives them of freedom, a system of laws and regulations, government management, crimes and punishments, wars, conflicts, disputes, racial, interethnic, and all sorts of things that just bam, suddenly out of nowhere. And it feels like there's some kind of grace inside, a calmness and an even attitude towards everything. It's as if all of this is left somewhere in memory and now it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter what religion, it doesn't matter. There's no point in walking around arguing with someone. Here you are directly. There is God and you feel Him directly. You don't need to go anywhere banging your head on the floor. Oh Lord, Lord, Lord. You are already here in unity. And all the people on earth will feel this. Not everyone will be ready for this, but everyone will feel it. It's inevitable. Inevitable. But we don't know, and no one knows when this will actually happen. Neither I or anyone else. I can only give you approximate dates for when this might happen, probably. But even I don't know this for sure. So what else will happen during the repolarization? Here the question about the 3 days of darkness also comes up again. So can there really be 3 days of darkness or not? Or what can we understand by these 3 days of darkness? As the higher powers showed me, the Pleiadians, mentors and curators, the process of the pole shift will indeed be accompanied by phenomena that can be seen as auroras all over the planet. A solar flare will precede this process. This solar flare will directly hit Earth, causing a pole shift. A solar kick is needed for the pole shift. And if there are many solar flares happening right now, most of them currently pass by the Earth, and we only feel a small part of the solar wind. This solar flare will be so extremely strong and powerful that its eruption will be directed straight at the Earth and will provoke a significant pole shift. So, for the pole shift to happen, a significant kick from the Sun is needed. For this kick to happen, the higher powers of light, the GFS, need to give the go-ahead. Alright, come on, give them a kick, let's go. Alright, the kick has been given. And with that kick, the field flipped over. That's when we can say that in the end it actually happened. The problem is, imagine that you might think, oh, this is so wonderful, my God, the Gregories have collapsed. Nothing like that. There will be complete chaos, total disorder, and people will be in shock and panic, in fear, in horror, in a wild state. And that's exactly why we are needed. These are the people who are aware of what's happening. These are the people who are not afraid and can calm all their loved ones, relatives, and explain to them what will happen next. That's why I'm telling you about what will happen next. This is part of my mission, to convey this information and warn you. This isn't about scaring anyone, it's just sharing what will happen, because many people think, oh my God, a solar flare, we're all going to die. No, don't worry so much. No one is going to say, oh, we're all going to die, the whole earth is going to burn. No, absolutely everything is completely within reason and calm. And nothing is out of the ordinary, everything is under control. The rehearsal for this solar flare happened 200 years ago. Back in the early days when telegraphs were beginning to make their appearance, there was already a solar flare 200 years ago that made the sky glow in almost every region around the earth, and the telegraphs were sparking with sparks flying along the wires. So, when this process happens, a powerful solar flare will burn a lot of satellites. Many satellites, as well as technical devices like phones, computers, and other means of communication, will completely fail for a while. And of course, if that time comes and you see, oh, a flare is happening, it's better to turn off all your electronic devices at that moment, to prevent them from burning out if you want to keep them. Because most likely, for people who have them turned on during this period, they will burn out. In other words, they simply won't be able to handle the overload that's coming. And this overload, well, obviously, it will break the banking system. That's what I was talking about in the last broadcast, yes. It will also break security systems and disable weapons. So it will be impossible to fight, impossible to have conflicts with each other. People will have to survive in a new reality where the world has changed now, and we need to think about how to build our lives moving forward. The so-called 3 days of darkness will be similar to just a time when the electricity is turned off, meaning it will essentially just be a temporary power outage due to an accident somewhere at a substation. Nevertheless, you might immediately start asking panic-driven questions like, oh my God, what about radioactive emissions? What if a nuclear power plant explodes and all that? I don't see anything like that in the future where a nuclear power plant would explode. At these nuclear power plants, during these transformations, the reactors will be shut down, and none of these nuclear plants will explode. They have a protection and safety system. They can be shut down within 10 to 15 minutes. So as soon as this flare starts, it won't instantly cut off all communication on the planet. It will begin to affect it gradually. So at first, you'll start to see the compass wandering for no reason, not pointing anywhere, the northern lights shining all over the planet day and night, headaches, and this strange murky feeling, a sense of discomfort, poor communication, and no connection. So it will gradually build up, and possibly last for 3 days. And then it won't be clear at all where north is and where south is. Communication will be disrupted. It's not a fact that electricity will be turned off everywhere, but in some regions it might be. But you can immediately ask me panic-driven questions. Oh my God, we need to stock up on something like canned goods and stuff. Relax, you won't need any canned goods. Nothing that scary is going to happen that would require you to run somewhere and stock up on supplies. Everything will be fine, everything will be calm. Overall, I see a scenario where humanity will react normally to all of this. There won't be any global catastrophes. The transition will be gradual, calm, and some so-called predictors, false prophets, have said that 1/3 of the Earth's population will be taken away. Who will take them? Where will they take them? Where from? What? Who? This is all, just populism, simply to hype your attention, to scare you with all sorts of boogeymen so that you go, oh my God, intrigue? Intrigue? What's going on there? Who will they take away? And that's all to keep you watching the video they're telling you about. But essentially, it's just a trick like that. You shouldn't believe everything you hear on the internet. And indeed, someone will be taken away, but as I mentioned earlier, I'll talk about that separately now. This relates to what will happen next when this process occurs. So it's clear, right, how the quantum transition and repolarization will happen, meaning it's a complete update of the grid and matrices, the destruction of old negative thought forms and programs, which is why they are being released now. But people will still cling to these thought forms, so for those who still have them, they will be released as an update, like formatting the matrix, pop, and they formatted the entire grid around the planet. But people will still have some brains left, for example, distorted ones, distorted thinking, distorted perception. People will experience panic and fears due to distortions. They will need quantum psychologists and energy assistants to stabilize, and they will have this strange feeling of panic attacks, fears, worries. Therefore, they will need quantum psychologists, energy assistants, and so on to stabilize the situation, which is why we are now actively learning, including contact with the higher self. My course has been rescheduled. It was supposed to start on the 19th, but I moved it to the 26th. But apparently everything happens for a reason, and it's all meant to be. Therefore, whoever still wants to jump on the last car, you have such an opportunity, because from Wednesday, since there is already a large group at the BLS, probably
Perhaps we will increase the minimum threshold of energy exchange for entering the course, because a large group has already formed. There are few places left, but you still have the opportunity to jump on the last car. You still have time until Wednesday to join at the old minimum contribution. But actually, all these practices that I'm currently offering will be useful for those who will, including those that I provide in the public domain. So I have more than enough. I recommend watching all of my videos that you found on my YouTube channel. Even if you're watching this video right now for the first time, for example, or if you've seen this video but haven't watched the others, I have a lot of very important, interesting videos. Each one of them contains practical benefits and information. For example, the previous video, The Sacred Mystery of the Tree of Life, contains information that everyone should know. And it's so sacred that I provide it for free in the public domain. My fellow esoteric colleagues probably wouldn't appreciate it because such material would be very valuable in their courses. Nevertheless, I'm sharing this with you. What recommendations can I highlight to prepare for these processes? Because it's important not only to work on your thoughts, but also to work on all levels and planes. The first level works. It's the three-dimensional level. You know that the transition is not to some D, but an expansion to all Ds. So we're not avoiding going from the third D to the fifth, but we're expanding from 3D to 5D, 3D up to 5D. So it's 5 together in total. Not the fifth dimension, got it? 5 dimensions, not the fifth. So there's a play on words here that completely changes the meaning. And this is the most important clarification that I make. We are expanding to 5 dimensions. And when the expansion to 5 dimensions happens, it's important that the 3 previous ones are aligned with the vibrations. So, what is important to focus on right now? It's about structuring your body and your matrix, changing your diet and lifestyle to the vibrations. So what is important to focus on right now? Structuring your body and your matrix, changing your diet and lifestyle. Of course, the preferred diet is to gradually move away from meat towards plant-based fresh products, fruits, and vegetables. The most optimal option is the Mediterranean diet, but not just in that sense, but in the sense that the structures of the body need to be built from quality fats and proteins, because the fat-protein system will form the cytoskeleton, within which light impulses will flow in human cells and in his brain. If you consume refined oils, eat a lot of sweets, eat flour products, and those cookies that have a lot of palm oil added, then all of that is trans fats. Trans fats, they damage our cells, including brain cells, and disrupt the process of merging a person with his original source. Therefore, it is important to change the quality of nutrition, the quality of products. Don't consume any margarines, no trans fats. Avoid this at all costs. It's not even about you stopping eating meat, but about you stopping to eat food that becomes part of your body. And your body ends up being like a house built from broken bricks. If we let a lot of energy into this house, it won't hold up. That's why it's best to use unrefined oils and to use extra virgin oils, such as, for example, olive oil, coconut oil, and other healthy oils. I won't go into more detail about this right now. It's also important to work on the body in terms of filling it with energy capacity. So, physical exercise and yoga should be part of everyone's daily practice, along with breathing practices that expand energy volumes and enhance the conductivity and fullness of the etheric fields. In each of my courses, I will now be providing breathing practices. Right now, my higher self has brought me some really good breathing practices that allow you to literally reprogram and rewrite beliefs in your subconscious very quickly. I do a special practice. Then I do it with specific breath holding techniques. And during that hold, I dive into a kind of trance, a unity with the higher self, with a Mahdi, where you can literally rewrite everything layer by layer. Of course, practices like Qigong, Prana, and breathing with Prana are beneficial right now. And even if they are some old Eastern practices, they all work. Feel free to use them. They are great. So yoga, qigong, all those kinds of things, let's practice. This will be very helpful, but that's not enough. It's also important to work on your consciousness, and here we come to the issue of negative beliefs. The topic of negative beliefs is the foundation of all work with spirituality. After all, our reality is what each of you believes in. You might think that we were born and we look at this as a reality. In fact, that's not the case. Everything you see around you is not reality. It's just your perception of a particular event. And in my life, there have been so many events where I could interpret the same event as something negative, but I chose to interpret it as something positive, and it turned out to be that way afterwards. I have already done this many times in practice, and I constantly rewrite any event in my reality because there is a collective reality and then there is your individual one. And each of you makes your own choice. Should you trust your individual reality to some predictor, forecaster, or fortune teller, or should you hand it over to other people who will decide your fate for you? Yes, it's so convenient. It's like those secondary gains that come from being a victim when I think, oh, I'm a victim, I can't do anything. Everything has been decided for me. We've all been taken over. Oh, we are so poor, so unfortunate. All the poor people have been taken over. Evil reptiloids of civilization. Phew. No one has taken over. No one, only foolish head has captured itself. You locked yourself in a cage and say, oh dear, how I've been taken over. You have taken over yourself. No one is taking you over except for yourself. Only you give consent to everything in your reality. And this is one of the most important aspects. Right now, you need to restructure the entire framework. Because yes, you will start to see auras, you will begin to communicate with your higher self, you will start to perceive the subtle plane, and it will be crucial to learn how to do all of this consciously. The work required is comprehensive and deep. To prepare for it, you need to analyze yourself, beliefs, and past limits. Limitations will surface, they won't vanish, they'll intensify, posing challenges, because when this activation happens, all those limitations will rise to the surface. They won't just disappear with a snap of your fingers, they will intensify, and this intensification can be very challenging for many. And now about the forecast. Exactly, yes. As I mentioned earlier, I informed you that no one knows the final specific dates, but the GFS told me it's something like a weather forecast, when a decision might be made to direct a powerful burst towards Earth. One of those points is approximately June or July of 25. So yes, very soon, in less than a year, the Sun will reach peak of its activity, and there are 11-year cycles of polarity reversal on the Sun. So our Sun, if the Earth, for example, undergoes a polarity reversal once every 26,000 years, the Sun does it every 11 years. And it goes through cycles of activity changes, sometimes with such vivid manifestations. The previous cycle of activity coincided with the period of 2012, 2011, 2013, when the first impulse of powerful energies was given. But the Galactic Federation looked at the situation on Earth and said, we are not ready yet, and decided to delay this process, so that as many people as possible could prepare. And now, in 2025, a period is coming when the Sun might give this impulse, might send us this golden kick. And it's important how ready humanity will be for it again. So there will be a certain meeting of the Galactic Federation of Light. And at this meeting, they will probably invite me, and I will be able to attend and then tell you about it. Through the subtle plane, as a member of the delegation from planet Earth, I can attend the Galactic Council and then relay to you what they decided. Because a decision will be made, I don't know exactly when, but most likely this council will take place in February, and they will be making a decision regarding whether we are ready or not. Let's look at the field. Of course, for higher civilizations, it's preferable that when these energies are launched, there are no wars on Earth, because wars are a very strong destabilizing process, and you can't just solve all problems with a solar flare, because it could worsen the situation, and it's important for the process to move forward only in a positive and constructive context. So the decision will be made based on how the situation on Earth develops. If a decision is not made for 25, then, as my mentors told me, the next reference point when this transition might be possible will most likely be 36, that is, in 11 years, during the next cycle of solar activity. And so we will be given some more time to prepare. I don't know. So don't ask me what the percentage chance is that it will be like this or that. I suggest that we don't ask ourselves such questions, but rather connect to directly influence it. I have a lot of planetary meditations on my YouTube channel. One of those that was there just 2 months ago only got 30,000 views. Considering that other videos gain about 100,000 views in a week, this video, which directly pushes the quantum transition forward, has only gathered 30,000 views in 3 months. It's incomprehensible to me because I just don't understand how this can be. I have 150,000 subscribers on my channel. If all 150,000 of us gathered at the same time and did a planetary meditation, we would bring the quantum transition closer, just like that, instantly, across the whole planet, because the impact would be of colossal scale. But even those who watch me, you see, still lack full awareness. Even though there are now 4,000 people, almost 5,000 watching me, I only have 2,000 likes, you understand. But not everyone yet understands, not everyone yet feels their personal responsibility, their personal attitude to these processes, that we influence all of this. You understand? I keep talking, but many just want to listen to something interesting, like while having lunch, cooking, or cleaning the house. But few are ready to sit down like this, to focus, to say, okay, we're ready, we want to help the Earth. Now we will do a practice, now we will do a planetary meditation and send healing energy to the Earth. Well, where is it? Well, where did we gather 150,000 people for a planetary meditation? So here's the answer to the question. When will the quantum transition happen? When? How many % of conscious people are there on Earth? Answer this question for yourself. So how many are there? If we have videos that get millions of views filled with populism, like, oh, this will happen, I see this, I see everything, then after a month, no one will remember whether it actually happened or not. I think this information can be a turning point for many in understanding how to relate to the events that are happening. But now we are approaching the moment of, so what will happen next? And this is important. What will happen next? After all, many talk about the quantum transition. So what comes next? What should we do with the huge mass of humanity that still won't be ready in time? After all, this will be the majority. Most people will honestly not be ready for the quantum transition, and they take them, right? When they say they'll take them somewhere, who knows what's going on, who's going to take whom, it's all unclear. So indeed, the Earth as a planet is at the intersection of different spheres of influence, different civilizations, and so to speak, there are civilizations of a brighter order that are trying to influence us. And there are civilizations of a darker order that want to establish total control, digitalization, globalization, and cyberization, and so on. But one way or another, humanity must make its own choice. No civilization can influence us, our civilization, against the free will of people and humanity. So when the quantum transition happens, there will be a transformation period of about 50, 60 years after the quantum transition. 60 years period of transformation. When people who haven't been able to make the quantum transition yet will start catching up, we will be teaching them. Schools and academies will be opened all over the planet, like the retreat center that I will be building. All of this, the academy, the Alcyon that I created, the courses I conduct, will all be taught at state levels in institutions to raise awareness, to elevate it, and to help people transition. But among these masses of people, there will be those who simply cannot be helped at all. They will be completely out of it. They will go crazy. They will feel so bad from these vibrations. Well, just imagine how bad it can be for a person who has been sitting in a cave for a long time. Imagine, yes, such an association. A person sits in a cave their whole life, never having seen the light of day. And then bam, noon. Oh my God, how bright, how light. And he stepped out, for example, at noon into a place where there's still snow. And it's so bright it just blinds you, hitting your eyes. And it hurts, it really hurts. And he's squinting, feeling bad, in pain. He can't even look. People who haven't quite reached the right vibrations will experience something similar. They'll feel like they're being slightly fried on a frying pan. An alternative option will be provided. So there are 2 planets besides ours that are suitable for human life and prepared for the resettlement of people. One of them is located in the constellation Scorpius, and one is in the constellation Virgo. After the quantum transition occurs, people will be divided into 2 groups, or rather 3. One group will stay on Earth. The second group will fly to a planet towards the star Spica. The third group will fly towards the constellation Scorpius. And there will be 2 new colonies of Earthlings established. These new colonies of Earthlings will continue to live in the consciousness. So their 3-dimensional consciousness couldn't expand into 5 dimensions. It could only master 3. And so they will need a few more thousand years to reach that level, just like us. So they'll be given a reprieve, so to speak, to catch up. And they'll be given this reprieve in various ways. That is, one colony will be supervised by one civilization. Another colony will be supervised by other civilizations, and thus 2 independent colonies of different cultures will be created there, which will also have to make a quantum transition. We, the people who remained on Earth, made a quantum transition. We will join the Galactic Federation of Light, since we will build harmony, prosperity, and peace throughout the planet. We will submit an application from the entire collective of all people on Earth to the Galactic Federation, and after reviewing this application, we will be accepted there and provided with technologies, including technologies for interstellar travel, and you and I will be able to have our own spaceships, such as a flying saucer, on which we will be able to visit both of these colonies on both planets and help them with training. So someone might fly from Earth to work as a teacher there. I might definitely happily proceed. Also, to continue teaching in order to raise the vibrations again. Some will stay on Earth to build a new world, a new society. Someone will go as a diplomat to the Galactic Council. So there are different possibilities for what will happen, but specifically what is described is the arrival of a civilization on Earth where all the angels descend from the heavens, and Jesus comes with all the angels. This is described as the second coming, as the arrival of the Galactic Federation and the manifestation of all the light beings of the cosmos on Earth, including Yeshua, who will arrive with them. He is currently on another planet. And of course, the world will change completely, meaning we won't need phones. Technologies like the old ones will change, and we will be able to communicate telepathically. All these phones are just, how should I put it, crutches. We won't need these crutches. We will be able to communicate easily telepathically, and the world will change as much as possible. But no one will give you specific deadlines, and those who are trying to give them, we are transitioning to 4D. At first they said things like this in 2021. At first everyone was saying, oh, Right now, on December 21st, we will all transition to 5D. And 5D didn't move on, and they were like, oh no, we moved on to 4D. Oh yes, we moved on to 4D. Oh, 4D. And they went on to sing their songs, to pour out their nonsense about 4D again, all just to pull the wool over people's eyes, just to avoid taking responsibility and saying, oh, sorry, we screwed up. Well, we screwed up. We promised you 5D, but it didn't come. Well, sorry. Well, we made a mistake. Well, it happens. It's okay. We can forgive that. You believed you wanted that 5D, but it didn't come, and that's fine because you were just waiting for it wrong. You don't need to wait for it. You need to manifest it from within yourself, not just sit and listen to bedtime stories about 4D. Because I repeat, we are not transitioning to some D, we are expanding. We are expanding into all Ds, and we are experiencing 5D, all 5Ds, not just the fifth dimension. I think that's an important clarification. And if you hear this inaccuracy from someone, please explain it to them. Explain it to them, because otherwise we will just be confused by this terminology for a very, very long time. You can write your questions to me here in the chat right now and in the comments after the broadcast ends. I will answer all of them, at least the ones that are relevant to the topic and the most important. Yes, I often get messages in the comments from contactees and channelers who receive similar information to what I do. Then they write, yeah, exactly. Can you believe it? I got similar information too. And that's wonderful. Yes, I'm actually currently moving to a new place, so next week I might have a broadcast with a new background or maybe something almost the same as now. I don't know. So I pushed back the course on reconnecting with the higher self a bit, but before it starts, since such an opportunity has come up, I want to invite you again because, in my opinion, connecting with your true self, which is accessible to anyone at any level of preparation, whether starting from scratch or from any level, is probably one of the most important points of development that has played a crucial role in my life. It was precisely through connecting with the higher self that the full unfolding of everything else began, because at some point, after doing a simple practice that I will teach you, I entered a state where I had no doubts that I was in this connection. From this state, you can purely interact with the entire energy information space. Any divination, any other esoteric practices like clairvoyance or channeling, without reconnecting with the higher self, are meaningless because a person will perceive the information distorted without that. And it's important to eliminate distortion. That's exactly what we're doing in the process of reconnecting with the higher self. This is indeed meditation training, and in its deepest format. I don't know when I'll be repeating this course, maybe in a year or maybe even longer. So if you manage to sign up, that would be great. I heard from one of the contactees that the channeling of the body is changing. Well, I would say that to some extent, yes, there are changes, but normally there shouldn't be any. These changes can affect a person if they don't interact in an environmentally friendly way. Essentially, the pole shift of the Earth is the overturning of the Earth's core in the magma, right? No, it can't turn over. Who's going to turn it over? What does it have little paws to be able to turn over like that? No, the Earth's core isn't turning over anywhere. It's the field itself that is turning. The electromagnetic field. Why? Because around the core there is a liquid core, meaning around the solid core, and the movement of the metal in the liquid core determines how the magnetic field is arranged. And right now there is turbulence in this liquid core, meaning this movement is shifting. And when this shift eventually and ultimately happens, the poles will change their position.
You mentioned that you would give an approximate time for the 3-day transition with a blackout. I told you there are expected dates in June or July of 2025 or in 2036. So either in the summer of 2025 or in 2036. If it doesn't happen, in 2036 it will be postponed for another 11 years. That is, it turns out to be in 1947. That is, such transfers can go on for a long time, so we can go on for a long time in our nurseries like fools, walking around there doing this and that, looking at that, flying in the clouds. Oh my God, what will happen, what won't happen? I believe we shouldn't be waiting for anyone. That's the worst thing you can do when people say, oh, well, what now? Let's wait, listen to some predictions, wait for the quantum transition, wait for the higher powers to come and fix everything for us. Yes, yes, sure, the angels will come flying in, give us a magical tap on the head and say, cuckoo, the quantum transition has arrived. No, that won't happen. And magical aliens won't come down, shining their beams everywhere and saying, oh, that's it. Now you won't have Gregors, Proviters, we've done it all for you. No, that won't happen. Let's get rid of naive fantasies. We don't need that. No one is obligated to save us. It's our sick fantasy that we've come up with, thinking we're such poor, unfortunate victims, and that only some external forces can save us. The quantum transition is the maturation of human civilization, and it is precisely through this stage of maturation that we are currently going through, and each of you influences this process. I am a beginner quantum healer. Could you please tell me in the course of Svi? Can I remove the curse of the black ring from myself? Oh my God. Friends, of course you can, because there is no such thing as a curse except for self-curse. There is no such thing as a curse except for self-curse. You are the one who places the curse on yourself. Can you imagine? Only as long as you believe that you are cursed, that there is some kind of hex on you, that you have some sort of ring around you, you are the one creating it, feeding it, and sustaining it with the energy of your own soul and will. Just like that. And this secret will be hidden from you by black magicians in every possible way, because otherwise it would take away all their clients who bring them money to remove all sorts of curses. Because there are no such curses. You can't destroy another person unless they allow it. And if you allow it now, if you believe that you have an axe, then you have spoiled yourself. Stop thinking about it at all and it will disappear. Will the Earth's gravity change after the pole shift? No, it won't change. It will remain absolutely the same. What will happen to the planes that are in flight at that moment? Will they fall? Crash. No, I hope, at least, that planes won't be falling and crashing more often. Of course, that's possible because the navigation can go off course for planes, it can fail. But in reality, all planes fly on such trajectories that they have the ability to land at the nearest airport without engines. And I think that this gliding will allow many planes to simply land. Most likely, since the process of the onset of this solar flare will build up gradually, I believe that the planes will be brought down to the ground before the maximum impulse reaches the Earth. And gliding, I think, will allow many planes to simply land. Most likely, since the process of the onset of this solar flare will build up gradually, I believe that planes will be brought down to the ground before the maximum impulse reaches the Earth. Most likely, all planes will be ordered to land before that, as this storm will be recorded and its approach to the ground will be forecasted, indicating that it's better for planes not to take off during that time. Will solar flares wait for our maturation? Yes, that's absolutely right. But it's not the solar flares, it's the Galactic Federation of Light that is overseeing this process. There will be solar flares, but the question is whether the plasma from this solar flare will move off to the side, past us, or will it be directed straight, right at the Earth, like a kick, or will it veer off somewhere? Or will it be directed straight, right at the Earth? The pendulum, the ink, or will it veer off to the side? So, 2012, there was such a flare, it passed by everything just went by. And now a new chance is coming for us if it passes by again, but that's already our problem. Let many people die, I will be glad. Well, hello. What does this mean? About how much pain has accumulated in your soul that it expresses itself like this. You understand? And from this pain that has gathered in your soul, no one else will suffer but you. This means that your own soul is suffering so much that it feels like this is the only way to find relief. In fact, this is exactly what needs to be worked on before the quantum transition happens. What an optimist you are. I'm not an optimist, I'm just a person who creates reality. Optimists are, for the most part, people who rely on positive outcomes and luck. And I don't rely on that, I just create. And you see, here everyone has a choice of who to be. To be just a victim, suffering from random events like saying, oh my God, what's happening to me? It's just a series of random occurrences. Or directly influence your future, set it, change it at your own discretion. It's a choice, not optimism. Could you please tell me which continents will go underwater? Yes. Let's really raise this topic now because many people are indeed scared by the idea that many continents will go underwater or that some parts of the land will be flooded. Undoubtedly, the level of the world's oceans will continue to rise. Indeed, in many regions around the planet, we can expect to see both earthquakes, including significant ones, and floods during this time, and not just from the sea, but from the sky in the form of heavy rains. And one way or another, we can say, oh my God, it's going to go underwater. But when it goes underwater, you see, when predictors look and say, oh my God, it's going to go underwater, it can mean anything. Maybe it rained and everything got flooded, but then tomorrow the water recedes and everything is fine, right? Or, for example, somewhere a dam broke and the water flooded something, and they saw that everything went underwater. So here we need to interpret and divide any predictions by 2 or 3. Personally, I see a future where there won't be any massive flooding of continents. Some islands, like the Maldives, could go underwater. Some islands in the sea, as the level of the world's oceans will rise by about 1 meter, maybe 1.5 meters at most. But even a 1 meter rise in the world's oceans can lead to flooding in many regions. There won't be any major global flooding of entire continents in the foreseeable future, but to some extent, at some point, as we know it, in the current scenario, that could happen. But this will be balanced by the fact that after climate change and shifts in humidity, nature will start to change its structure, and there won't be any of those terrifying events that some describe. Like entire continents going underwater. Do you have any fears or concerns about the upcoming quantum transition? What if it doesn't go according to the scenario that was outlined? Of course, there can be other scenarios. Of course, I wouldn't say that I have any fears about it. I have no doubt that the quantum transition will take place, and in my intention to help it happen exactly the way I want, I have no doubts. And I fully realize that the quantum transition could go according to a different scenario, including one that I wouldn't want. One that could involve, for example, large casualties among the population, explosions, cataclysms, nuclear war, that is some kind of violent process. That's also possible, but it's unlikely. And even if that were to happen, I'm not afraid of it because I trust God. I trust the higher consciousness, I trust God within myself, and when you trust God through your higher self, you connect with this spiritual truth and choose the most necessary position and the most appropriate application for yourself in that specific place where you are needed. And what about aliens? Have our intentions been approved? Yes, in the last broadcast, we all sent thought forms for extraterrestrial civilizations to manifest, and they said back then that this was taken into account. Whether they approved it or not, I don't know. It depends on the Galactic Council. I haven't been informed about whether there was a council or not, but I think that such news will come soon. They say the USA will go underwater. Well, they say that lunatics walk on the moon. They say that the mountains on the moon are made of cheese. I mean, who knows what they say? Where does sound go? To the same place as yesterday. Where do you live now? I live where I feel good. Teenagers, how will their transition be? Children are also different, with varying levels of consciousness. Yes, children are very different. I recorded a big live broadcast on the topic of children. Unfortunately, it didn't get many views. For some reason, this topic turned out to be unpopular. Nevertheless, indeed, a lot of children will find it very difficult to make the quantum transition because the modern generation has been raised on phones, raised on gadgets and ADHD patterns. They will struggle to go through this process because they spend all day engaged in anti-meditation. The quantum transition is already happening. Look at what's happening. Of course, I've talked about this. It has been happening, inevitably, since 2012. And this process cannot be stopped. This is not a 1-minute thing that happens just once. Is there a difference between the soul and the higher self? The soul and the higher self are very different concepts because the higher self is the true self. That's the part of you that exists beyond the world. And the soul exists within the universe. And the soul accumulates the experiences of the higher self. So imagine that you're playing a computer game, right? So you have a character that you've created and you're playing as that character. When the character is embodied in the game and the gameplay is happening, it's your higher self that has incarnated through the soul and is playing. When the game is over, the character is saved in memory in the cloud. And when you turn off the computer, your higher self, that is your consciousness, leaves this world and goes about its own business. When you turn on the computer, you choose your character again and embody it in the game. Choosing a character, this character is a combination of their energy, what they knew, their memories. This is the soul. And that avatar he walks around in is his body. It's the same for us essentially, but it's just a metaphor. Metaphorical. And who is the higher self? That's the one who sits behind this computer. This is not the soul. It's the same for us. The soul is like a quantum computer that accumulates all energies, while the higher self is a sort of higher observer that exists beyond everything. He is in some space of eternity, where there is no time, where there is nothing. So for us in the unknowable space, what is your opinion on the division of worlds in 1927? Well, there's no such division of worlds. Again, it doesn't matter what they say. As I say, they say that in the insane asylum, they knit stockings that are 7 meters long. So what? Well, they say that something will happen there. So what's my attitude towards this is the same as the forecasts that were told to me 2 years ago. Oh, I see, this spring there will be a division. I see that it's going to be really bad for everyone. I cry. I feel sorry for all of them. And where is this division? Yeah, it's predicted every year. In 2024, there will be a division. In the spring, there will be a division. That's it. Right now, we will definitely see that we have a planned transition to divide everything. Nonsense. Why nonsense? Because you see, I'm not saying that all esotericists are fools and bad idiots. So don't think that I'm judging anyone. This situation, this trouble, has arisen due to a lack of education. So we don't have unified system of knowledge among esotericists. There's no unified education system, So everyone interprets and comes up with things based on what they heard and understood, and then they spread whatever popped into their heads to the masses. And that's why all this confusion arises, because in reality, it would be possible to verify something using certain methods. We could gather for a council. I've been trying to implement this for a long time. I tell my colleagues, dear colleagues, you are broadcasting to other people. Let's gather together for a big conference. And we will vote on some interpretation of the information so that we do not confuse people with different interpretations of I am the smartest, but so that we give a single understanding that everyone agrees with. That is, we will accept some knowledge base as some standard, and we will all base everything on this standard so as not to confuse people. But do you think, where is my request and where are all those people I sent it to? Well, it's right there because they don't need it. What, are you going to share your glory with someone? Or what if some of their beliefs turn out to be untrue? Oh, come on. Their narcissism won't allow them to do that. They're like heavenly kings. They think they know everything better than anyone else. And again, I'm not judging, I'm just stating a fact. That's how it is for many, but not for everyone. I will continue to call on esotericists to sit down together at one conference and hold a vote, to adopt some kind of unified structure for conveying information so that everyone doesn't carry all sorts of nonsense from their own bell tower, but to structure everything into a single paradigm. Maybe it will come with time, when all these ambitions and spreading of peacock feathers pass. Maybe then people will be ready. But you see, we haven't yet assembled such a team, although we have many contacts. I sent this request, but it just disappeared into thin air. I haven't heard back from anyone yet. So now I will pass on an important and significant message from the higher self. This will be a channeling on the topic of the occurrences and happenings that are taking place right now, and the energies that are currently coming to Earth in great detail. For some of you, this might potentially be the crucial key to understanding certain events that will take place in the near future. All beings on Earth, you are each a unique and intricate manifestation of the Absolute, embodying its essence in every aspect of your existence. I extend my warmest greetings to you, acknowledging you as an integral component of your expansive and higher superconscious structure, which encompasses your thoughts, emotions, and deeper awareness, guiding you towards greater understanding and enlightenment. Many of you have forgotten where you came from. Throughout many years of life, you create images for understanding yourself, trying to become aware of yourself and understand who you really are, but that's all. In the process of trying to become aware of yourself, it is important to reflect on your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors to gain a deeper understanding of your true self and embrace your unique identity. But all of this, what you consider to be reality, that you perceive in your mind, and beliefs and perceptions and thoughts, actually keeps you trapped in the paradigm of your limitations. It's time to start learning how to detach yourself from the objects and events that you encounter. This is important because many transformations are coming your way. By understanding this, you can prepare for the future and embrace new experiences. Each transformation is an opportunity for growth, so approach them with an open mind and willingness to adapt. And the energies that will be coming to your planet will repeatedly force you to experience those karmic states in an accelerated manner that you have long rejected and denied, in a way that is both intense and unavoidable, making it impossible for you to ignore or escape from these experiences, which are meant to help you grow and evolve spiritually. The sooner you stop running away from them and can look your fears straight in the eye, acknowledging them and truly recognizing your specific the points of developmental issues in a more comprehensive and detailed manner and thoroughly, the faster you'll start to align into a unified harmonic field in a holistic and unified way. The most relevant and very important thing at this very moment is the inner work on discovering your true original structure of self. In addition to that, it is important to note that everything else also matters. In this world, life is often an illusion, a deceptive appearance that we must navigate. These illusions are not just obstacles, but essential experiences. By engaging with them, we learn and grow, gaining the power to change ourselves and our surroundings. This journey through illusions is crucial for personal development, allowing us to initiate meaningful change and transformation. Illusion is not some kind of evil. Rather, it is a complex game that your spirit has chosen to engage in. This choice is made to undergo a significant transformation and transition. The spirit, in its wisdom, understands that through the experience of illusion, it can learn and grow. This journey is not about deception, but about embracing the challenges and lessons that come with these experiences. It is a path of growth, where the spirit seeks to expand its understanding and reach new levels of awareness. Right now, at this very moment, this game in your life is happening, perhaps without you even realizing it. But once you learn to be aware of it and its rules, by understanding its nuances and intricacies, you'll be able to play it consciously, and applying this knowledge in your daily life. This conscious engagement with the process is crucial for personal growth and development. Evolution is only possible through embodiment. By embodying in the physical world higher consciousnesses, higher selves, in various forms. Obtain the opportunity to gain the ability to acquire new qualities. For in the space of the higher self there is no time, no changes. Eternity is a constant presence, existing beyond time. Only by connecting with your structure do we start to change. This change is gradual, aligning with the eternal flow, allowing meaningful transformation. And indeed, each of you is all connected through this light to the one pool that you call God, together. May the light of this true and profound knowledge always be with each and every one of you, for these incredible and transformative changes in your hearts will gradually and beautifully reveal themselves in due time. You just shouldn't interfere with this process. By allowing yourself to let go of the constraints of the mind, and by releasing the undue importance you place on certain thoughts, you will eventually find yourself reaching this peaceful and enlightened state of being. Thank you all, friends. That was a message from the higher self. The energy, of course, is so strong. That's all for today, friends. I am glad to serve you. If you wish to thank me with some donations, you can do that. I also want to say that we will soon start conducting healing sessions in my Telegram channel. Yes, I used to conduct healing sessions with the Galactic Medical Service, or as they are also called, with the Galactic Federation of Light Emissaries from the Pleiades, who help each person by coming, analyzing, and healing each of you individually. I used to organize such sessions before, but then I just didn't have the time, and I took a break. Now I will start organizing such sessions again in the Telegram channel. I will post a link to such a session when the next one is happening. You will be able to join this session if you wish. You can also sign up for a course on reconnecting with the higher self, which has shifted. With that, I will now conclude my broadcast. I ask you to share this video and this information as widely as possible with anyone you think needs to hear it, as the acceleration of the quantum transition depends on our light and our response to the space. And there is no final date set by anyone, as you know. You are ultimately the ones who established this date first and foremost, because everything dances off from you. Thank you all, that's all from me. Stay tuned for next week and the next broadcast. All my broadcasts, absolutely all of them, no matter the topic, are very interesting and useful, even if the title isn't as fantastically wow as today's.
But today the topic really was quite wow.